I honestly don't get this ideology about getting stuck up on the Good Friday Agreement being a sticking point. I would take it just as being it's an opportunity. You take the best bits out of the Good Friday Agreement, of which there are some, things like integrated education, things like a whole load of things like citizens' assemblies that just have been ignored over the last 21 years. And just to pick you up on a point, David, in terms of we're going to think out of the box and all that sort of stuff, we've been 21 years, and at the time of the signing of the Good Friday Agreement, 6% of the kids in this state that were being educated alongside each other in integrated education. And in that 21 years, Sinn Féin have held the Ministry of Education for more time than anybody else, and that figure has leapt up to 7%. And in terms of bringing the society together, whether it's within the Northern Statelet or further after the Northern Statelet, that was a golden opportunity missed. And essentially that was down to Sinn Féin to force the issue, because that one issue, integrated education, has got the vast majority of people in this state in favour of it. That is not a political difficulty to have got that through Stormont in all its imperfect forms. I would take the opinion that you take anything you could get out of Stormont, and it really has ended up being the shit on the hill. It's offered nothing in 20 odd years, although we've been told by different parties that it was all things and all, it was all singing and dancing 6 weeks before you collapsed it. But in essence, I also corrected Deirdre on the figures, the NAMA figures. The figures of assets that were transferred were worth 4.6 billion. 4.6 billion, not 2 point something billion. They were sold off for 1.1 billion quid. And it was the First Minister, the Deputy First Minister, was off work that day, that welcomed your man Dan Quayle, who was the Vice President in the 90s, to Stormont to do that deal, to cut that deal. I find it very difficult. Call me a cynic if you must. I find it very difficult to accept that Sinn Féin, in the office of Deputy First Minister, or that any other MLAs or all other spads were completely oblivious to the fact that taxpayers in the 26 counties were just about to get shafted to the tune of 3 point something billion. These aren't small numbers we're talking about. It essentially would have been better without Stormont. Going back to the ideology of the Good Friday Agreement, listen, existentially, if I was a unionist at this moment in time, I'm starting to feel the pressure here, because it's all starting to stack up. It's not just the demographics, it's what's happening in Scotland. In terms of building a platform, what happened at the last referendum, the SNP didn't quite get over the line, but you can be very, very confident they're starting a much higher platform this time, 45%, and because of the broken promises that came up from Westminster and all these falsities that were offered at the last minute, Project Fear, and we'll get that as well in our referendum, you've got Scotland as an existential threat. If Scotland goes, there is no United Kingdom. What's the cultural connection between Wales and the 6 counties? There really isn't one. We play them at rugby, or they play, but they don't even play them at rugby. There's no connection, there just is no connection. Beyond that as well, the demographics in Scotland and whatever else, Corbyn has he's probably going to lead the most left-wing Labour government since 1945. He's explicitly been a friend to Ireland for all of his political career. He's explicitly said that he will allow, because let's not kid ourselves, there's no Tory Secretary of State was ever going to give a border poll. That just wasn't going to happen. It's Tories and Unionists, they're in this cabal. That was never going to happen. But Labour Prime Minister will, and the Labour Prime Minister, perhaps in coalition with the SNP, they will. Of course they will. And in essence, this is a massive opportunity, and as Kieran is saying, if you stand outside it and you criticise and say this is not the pathway that we thought it was going to be, then we get left behind. And if the left isn't part of the conversation, we know what happens with that. That's 1922 again, lads. That's a massive defeat. We're still recovering from that defeat. But the biggest threat, the most imminent threat, has emerged on the far right. English nationalism is bearing its teeth at the minute. Boris Johnson is your new Prime Minister. On the strength of that, Boris Johnson and the Tory party that he leads, we've seen the polls there a couple of weeks ago, was talking about 59% of Tory members would kick the United Kingdom to touch in order to get their Brexit. That's members. 85% of Tory voters would kick Northern Ireland, Scotland, the United Kingdom. They would kick it all the way to Iceland. That's where the real drive forward is coming from. The media, the Daily Mail, the Sun, they can turn on the north of Ireland and on the DUP as and when it suits a Tory party that is absolutely frothing for this Brexit fantasy that they're pursuing. In no circumstances, comrade, I genuinely would say to you, you need to join in, because we can talk about what happened in 22, or talking about Sunningdale or the Good Friday Agreement. Nothing was perfect. It was a failure. It was a sellout. We can talk about that. But the next struggle is here. It started. The starting pistol's happened, and we need to either join in, or you're just going to be left behind. And the prize is there. The prize is there. It's all to be won. But we've got to put the legwork in, and we've got to win it.